Redditors who left companies that non-stop talk about their amazing culture. What was the cringe moment that made you realize you had to get out? Had a wall of crazy where the CEO wanted to spend 20k on cool and G stuff for the office and staff could make suggestions. Slides, beanbags, napping pods, etc. Project was scrapped when the top suggestions ended up being desks, chairs, working heating, working Wi-Fi, health insurance. Hearing our CEO say compensation is only one part of the employment experience during an earnings call when he was answering complaints about underpaying his employees after we reported record profits. Literally the most important part. I learned at an internship that we work hard and play hard means we want you to work 75-hour weeks, but sometimes we'll put donuts in the break room. If there are any leftovers from client meetings. Not my company but a company from a neighboring building. They had an entire area devoted to foosball, pinball, billiards, console gaming, and video booths on the ground floor, and it was clearly visible because of the glass windows on street level. Oddly enough, nobody ever used them, and the place was almost always empty save for a few people who use the internet kiosks. When I learned a friend worked there, I asked why nobody would want to take the opportunity to use the awesome looking recreational facility. He told me that people who do use the facility often found it used against them during performance evaluations, even when their use wasn't excessive at all. After a while word got around and they started avoiding the place altogether. The irony is that their recruitment ads always touts a culture of work hard, play hard. We have a great culture, lots of team lunches and drinks. When I started our boss had banned the social club, birthday celebrations or recognition of birthdays, strictly no cake, taken away the Christmas party, the Christmas break period, and tried to stop people talking to each other. All the while she'd take every second day off and have long weekends every weekend. We had maybe 3 team lunches in the time I was there, and she always made sure to tell us that we wouldn't be paid for anything over our lunch break. Even though she came too, we had to submit manual timesheet corrections to remove the amount we took. It's like, okay, fair enough, but can't you just let it slide? It's not your money and we're talking maybe 20 minutes here. A client also invited me to their Christmas party due to our close relationship and my good work on their files, and she called them and told them I wasn't allowed to go. She told me it was because she was concerned I might reflect badly on the department. Ironic, really. Lush, when we couldn't say bathroom on the shop floor and instead had to ask a manager for serenity. I think I would just go around yelling serenity now. I worked at B&Q and one of my colleagues was stabbed 30 times by a customer. I was completely shaken. The next morning we were taken into a big room and made to sign a document saying we wouldn't sue them. If we didn't sign, we'd lose our jobs. Also, my colleague was stabbed only a month after they got rid of our security guard to save money. Pretty sure you can't prevent people from suing you. Might differ from country to country, but in Germany at least we have laws making ridiculous contracts invalid. This happened a couple of weeks ago, when HR sent out an email to management, excluding me and about 2 other people, telling them to fraudulently leave good reviews on Glassdoor and to coerce others to do the same. Post the memo on Glassdoor. I was at a fast casual restaurant for a couple months and the GM always talked about the culture. You know what's a great culture? When the morning shift and night shift have their daily screaming matches over crap that they each accuse the other one of needing to do. It was impressive just how incompetent the entire company was, from ownership down. Not me, but my husband worked for 2 weeks for a family owned and operated business that touted how important family was and that they were all one happy family. My husband was on his way to drop our at the time 2-year-old son off at daycare before work when son threw up all over himself. Husband called his employer to tell them what happened and that he needed to take son home and clean him up, but he'd be in ASAP. His manager told him he needed to get his priorities straight. He responded with, "You know what? You're right. I won't be back in at all." He was still working part-time at his previous job where they had been sad that he was leaving, so he called them and told them to put him back on the schedule full-time. The family business is currently in the process of liquidating assets before going out of business, and I cackle every time I drive past it. All about family. Your human family is less important though. Last year I was working as a subcontractor and I was assigned a new place of work. Just 2 weeks after I started, the new boss wanted to hire me. He put down the contract where, compared to my current contract, pay was down 25%, average weekly hours went up by 20%, vacation days went down by 10%, and I wouldn't have a company car for personal use anymore. Before he actually handed me the contract to read it, he said, "I will only make you this offer once, but it's only valid if you change all your pictures on your social media and you sell your car. It's too flashy for our company. How about no?" This is for Flight Centre, headquartered in Brisbane, Australia, but they are a global company trading under many names. I think it's Liberty Travel in the States. Anyway, everything about the company internally screams cringe. Everyone treats the CEO like a frickin' god. His name is Screw, and when he takes a selfie it's called a scruffy. Ugh. And they opened a foreign exchange ATM at the head office that they call the Scruton, which sounds like scrotum if you ask me. It's frickin' ridiculous. I have never understood the culture of CEO worship. My first job out of college, I had a co-worker come in one day all giddy, like freaking out with excitement. He said he had just passed the CEO in the lobby. I was like, yeah, no crap man. He works here too. When my art director wanted to get a pro bono poster on verbal abuse done faster by screaming at the designer. When I went to firm drinks in a public bar and the firm's fun committee handed out song sheets and a choir of employees led by a bad guitarist sang a song about how great the firm was to the tune of "'Cause I'm Happy," we were expected to sing along. It was at that moment I realized I was in a cult. Everything is awesome. When I had to phone around to the corporation leaders to find out why none of the mechanics I had interviewed were hired. The mechanics had come from all over the country, and some had waited patiently for months to know if they got the job or not. Turned out the CEO had changed his mind and wanted me to take care of all mechanic work. I was a factory manager, but they knew I'd be upset, so neither he, HR, or the COO wanted to be the one to tell me. The fricking balselessness of that move is astounding. I worked at this business that was real keen on telling everyone they were like a family and chastising me for not going to company parties, etc. But that also refused to pay overtime and expected me to work late 2 or 3 times a week, as well as doing a 14-hour a day twice a month for stock take end of month. Apparently because we're a family, we were all expected to chip in on the big days, except it was literally just us bottom tier workers who had to stay late. I quit that place and never looked back. "We're a family here" is a huge red flag for me after similar experiences. Expectations of family burdens are always placed on the employees, and family style benefits are only enjoyed by higher ups. There's also at least one person who really needs to be let go but won't be because they're like family. I worked for a company that prides itself on being in the top 100 places to work in the US. They bought the hospital I was working for currently while I was doing IT work there. For a year they let me stay at the current hospital I was at. I worked with a team for countless hours getting ready to switch out IT infrastructure over to match the place's new software, etc. We changed out all 900 computers at our location. After that was done, I was then told that in the next few months I would have to commute to the main campus to keep my job. A drive that for me was over 5 hours round trip. They did not offer me to transfer or even pay compensation for driving there. I was literally forced to quit at this point, all because a new manager took over on the new fiscal year and decided that the IT department I was in needed to all be at the main campus. This is considered constructive dismissal and you are eligible for unemployment benefits. When our university's VP explained that the goal of every tenured faculty member was to write enough grants to pay our salaries and replace us with TAs every semester, ideally every undergrad class. Also, we'd be under a hiring freeze but could feel free to be creative and use temporary grant money to hire tenured faculty. Also, we'd all be paying an extra $250 a year in parking fees to fund a new student parking lot. Dear Lord, was I glad I'd already decided to leave. Holy cow, what is happening to academia these days? So many people get outraged about campus politics, but there's so many deeper, fundamental issues that need our attention now. Bought out by an equity group. New president on call with thousands of employees says, "We have 2 kinds of employees. Those that work a tremendous number of hours, and those that should find another company to work for." We have two types of employees: former employees and morons. My last job was at an independent school in the UK, the wealthy type. During a period of streamlining, the entire faculty were called into a hall and told, in upbeat terms, that we were struggling to make ends meet. Salaries were too high, perks were too abundant, and spending was unsustainable. For clarity, salaries weren't too high, and perks were practically non-existent. Spending was definitely unsustainable, however, in part because they were spending hundreds of thousands redesigning the senior staff offices to hide all the cabling and install proper wood paneling. So then they started listing off perks and assigning them a value. For example, free parking. Well, no crap. The school has a lot of land and isn't in a city. Why would you charge? Secondly, nice surroundings. Well, again, no crap. That's part of your marketing appeal. Long holidays? Nice try, but I work all holiday. They didn't even get as far as telling me what they planned to do with my job and pay. I was gone in less than 3 months. My district manager told me to talk my keyholder out of going back to college. Mind you, she wanted to be a doctor. They were proud that no one had degrees. That's fine, but I'm not working 45+ hours a week and mandatory holidays just to sell some shoes. The loyalty my co-workers had was so cringy. They didn't understand how we were being taken advantage of because we didn't get our degrees. Anyways, F you, going back to school was the best decision I've made. We, management team, spend months working with a business coach trying to collectively come up with meaningful core values. We devoted a ton of time to it and really tried to decide which direction we wanted to take the company culture. Everybody agreed on teamwork, reliability, a couple others that I can't remember now, and then one day the owner came in and called a meeting. He sat us down in the boardroom and told us he spent all weekend brainstorming and had decided on the core values. They were meaningful, ownership, neighborhood, engagement. Does anybody see what that spells? He literally wanted it to be money and just came up with words that sort of worked the way you do in elementary school writing your name poem. He rebranded the entire company from t-shirts with giant first letters and smaller letters for the rest of the word straight down the arms, to plagues, wraps on the cars, every frickin' thing. And that's when we all knew it was going to get bad. Money is great, but it was mortifying driving around with that plastered everywhere. I was in sales and it was an alright office. Had a keg in the break room that we could get to in Fridays. One day they bring all the salesmen into the break room and tell us all to grab a beer. They then told us that from now until the rest of the year, about 5 months, we weren't going to be paid commissions, which was about 70% of our money. 4 of us just got up and left. When I started actually working on the floor and management was nowhere to be found. Welcome to call centers. I worked at a popular travel stop oversized gas station. It's practically a state icon. They are famous for their good wages for a low-income job. There's a huge sign over every entry with the starting wages around $13 HR in a state where minimum wage is $7.25. Customers think it's a great place to work. They literally fired a girl for having a stroke. We treat our employees like family, ignores harassment claims, hires from outside the company, refuses to give out decent pay, will write you up for doing overtime. But the CEO just bought himself a new BMW. I hate that place. We treat our employees like family. We expect you to always be on call for us, always ready to help us out and always forgiving our mistakes. In return, you may consider yourself a part of our family. When I took a 40% pay cut, with no change in workload, by being moved to salary. Treat every dollar like it was your own. Yaha. Right after we went well over targets for the entire year and then was told a Christmas party wasn't financially viable because expenses. It's one of the biggest hospitality groups in Australia, BTW. I worked at an animal hospital that wanted to be, and probably is to some, the best hospital in the city. Had the most modern equipment, looked incredibly nice inside, good Yelp ratings, etc. On top of that, we were told during hiring that we were a huge family and everyone loved each other. This couldn't be more wrong. This place was the epitome of superficial. The turnaround rate was out of control and people absolutely hated each other. The pay was horrible, even though we charged double the amount of any other hospital for our extensive care. I give management some credit for their effort, but it was more about hiding issues instead of addressing them. We couldn't talk about our concerns because it was considered gossip and people were fired frequently for this. And apparently they've now put audio recording throughout the hospital to listen in on employees' conversations. I honestly don't know how anyone still works there. Whoa, that sounds super illegal. I'm in management and we just got the message that bonuses for the last financial year were severely cut across the business. Probably going to receive 30% of our total potential at best. Then attended our financial end of year results meeting the next day to be told that net profits were 18% up, nearly 1 billion total, and the best performance in years, all thanks to us. Okay, planning on leaving now. Businesses will do whatever they can to report record growth, and that usually means they cut expenses to get there. Cutting bonuses, hours and expenses is one of the easiest ways to look profitable. This is what the woman who interviewed me said. Here at Cheapskate Architects we don't often do all-nighters for our customers, but when we do, it's a real pizza party. Also we don't pay overtime, we do it for the love. And your wage is $22,000 even though you are an architect. And also I won't be there because I'm HR management because I'm married to the director. Yes, we need an hour depth even though there's 3 employees. We had a problem with the client and the boss dumped all of the blame on a 24-year-old woman who was basically his most loyal employee. He made her cry in front of the client, as if that would somehow help save the relationship. How to turn a dedicated hard worker into a why bother worker 101 right there. A co-worker was forced to work while her mother was dying in hospice. Mom dies, she quits. They escort her off the premises like a criminal. One of my team leads called me while my dad was in hospice to ask me to start a new project, and I told her to frick off and she could talk to my boss. She did. My boss told her in a nice way to frick off. When my boss planned an office day trip to a car show and brewery, then only invited the guys in the office. Even worse, when one of the women said we should all go, he said no, but why don't you girls have a spa day instead? He also put on a hella racist accent whenever he talked about his many Asian clients. Obviously there were other issues, but those two stand out. Go frick yourself, Tony. When working at a shoe shop, assistant supervisor was assessing people's performances. He came to me and said, "Zalesnikov, you greeted the customer well, so I am giving you a big, smiley face," and marked it on his checklist. But the customer didn't buy any shoes, so I am just gonna mark that as a I got my 50% employee discount on my shoes and just walked away into the sunset to never go back. They changed the title of the receptionist to Director of First Impressions. For your information, they got that idea from the book The Big Five for Life by John Strelacki. One of its themes is how one can be a good manager, and names like that one are suggested so the person feels important. When attending a management retreat and was pressured into buying charity raffle tickets I couldn't afford, $20. The 2 people who won before me donated their winnings to the same charity they bought the raffle tickets from. They were middle management people who make $100K plus. I made $32K. With a young daughter, I won a drawing for $400. I literally had nausea for 2 days trying to figure out how I was going to pay my bills after my job had just moved the goalposts on some sales performance bonuses I had coming my way, dropping it effectively from $1,000 to $200. Now I'm the butthole who's going to keep the money I won. Guess I'm not a team player. Bonus. This was 4 hours drive from home. Had an overnight stay, and one of those middle management fricks in an example of what should be on or off the clock said we shouldn't be paid for the drive to the retreat. Frick you. I was on the clock from the time I left Friday until I got home Sunday. If you're forcing me to be somewhere as part of my job, it's all on the clock. My district manager didn't like that, and I was already looking for the door. You have been spotted by the money pigeon. Comment gimme and he will bless you with good fortune. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.